The millionaire is surprised to see the black beggar tear up a painting at his daughter's birthday. Jack Sterling, a self-made millionaire, lived and breathed for his family, especially his daughters, Jessica and his angel, Rachel. His world was all about control, smoothing things over with cash and influence. Picture this. Long Island, perfect green lawns, Jessica's crazy expensive 10th birthday bash. Balloons, a string quartet, kids screaming with laughter. But Jack? He felt this gnawing unease deep down. Then, bam, chaos, near the gazebo. This woman, looking like some street artist you'd see downtown, all messed up, going berserk on Rachel's portrait, the one he'd commissioned. You? No, to keep her memory alive. Screaming bloody murder about lies and a fake legacy. Slashing the canvas like a woman possessed. Teresa, his mother-in-law. The guests, frozen. The party, dead. Elizabeth, his wife, dives in, trying to stop Teresa. Shoves her away. Elizabeth stumbles. Jack catches her. And then he sees it. A flash drive clutched in Teresa's hand. "This will show you the truth about Rachel," she hisses, before security drags her off. Later, in his study. Jack's staring at that flash drive. Opening it could destroy everything he's built, expose secrets that should stay buried. But Teresa's wild eyes, Jessica's hurt face, he plugs it in. The screen flickers, audio recordings. The first one starts. Teresa's voice, calm, offering some financial deal to someone. It sounds bad, like way worse than family drama. Suddenly, Jessica bursts in, white as a ghost. "Dad," she whispers, "Carol's here. Rachel's friend. She says she has letters from Rachel." Letters? Jack's blood turns to ice. He thought Rachel's death was an accident. Was he wrong? And what the hell does Teresa know? This party's just getting started, and the truth might just burn it all down. Ei, antes de continuarmos com essa história incrível, dá só uma conferida rápida no botão vermelho aí embaixo para garantir que você ainda está inscrito no canal. Não quero que você perca nenhum conteúdo exclusivo que vem por aí. E já que você tá aí, deixa aquele like poderoso que me ajuda muito com o algoritmo. Ah, e me conta nos comentários de qual cidade você está assistindo. Adoro conhecer cada pessoa incrível que faz parte dessa comunidade. Sua participação faz toda a diferença. Vamos interagir, ok? Here we go. "Dad," she whispers. "Carol's here. Rachel's friend. She says she has letters from Rachel." Letters? Jack's blood turns to ice. He thought Rachel's death was an accident. Was he wrong? And what the hell does Teresa know? This party's just getting started, and the truth might just burn it all down. Carol, standing awkwardly in the doorway, clutching a faded cue box. Eyes red-rimmed. Jessica's practically glued to her. Letters. What letters? Jack's voice is tight, barely a whisper. He needs to get a grip. This whole day, it's spiraling. Carol hesitates, looking from Jack to Jessica. "Rachel, she wrote them to me. Before the accident." I wasn't sure if I should. Jessica's hand shoots out, grabbing the box. She's practically vibrating. "Let me see, please." Jack wants to scream, to snatch the box away. But he can't. He's frozen. He watches as Jessica tears into the box, scattering envelopes on the floor. Her hands are shaking so bad, she can barely open them. The first letter, it's dated a week before Rachel died. Jessica reads aloud, her voice cracking. "Dear Carol, I can't keep this a secret anymore. I'm so scared. Dad, he's been acting so weird lately. He keeps asking me about Mom's business. Stuff I don't even understand. And he gets so angry when I don't know the answers." Jack feels like he's been punched in the gut. This can't be happening. Jessica reads on, her voice getting louder, more frantic. Each letter reveals a darker picture. Rachel confiding in Carol about Jack's increasingly erratic behavior, his obsession with the family finances, his late-night phone calls, then the last letter, dated the day before Rachel died. Carol, I overheard Dad talking to someone on the phone. He said he needed to take care of something. He said it was the only way to protect the family. I'm so scared, Carol. I think he's going to do something bad. Jessica stops reading, looks up at Jack. Her eyes filled with a horror he's never seen before. Dad, what does this mean? And then the world explodes. The French doors to the study crash open. A figure stumbles in, wild-eyed, gasping for breath. It's Elizabeth. Jack, she cries, her voice hoarse. He knows everything. Jack's confused. Knows what? Everything about? Suddenly, Elizabeth lunges forward, shoving Jessica out of the way. She grabs the letter from Jessica's hand and tears it to shreds. Then she turns to Jack, her face a mask of terror. It was me, Jack, she screams. I did it. I killed Rachel. The room goes silent. Jessica stares at her mother, her face blank. Carol gasps, her hand flying to her mouth. Jack, he feels like his heart has stopped beating. Elizabeth crumples to the floor, sobbing uncontrollably. She was going to tell everyone about the money, about what we did. The truth, it hits Jack like a tidal wave. Elizabeth wasn't just his wife. She was a partner in something terrible. Rachel hadn't died in an accident. She'd been silenced by her own mother. But why? What secrets were so dangerous that Elizabeth would kill her own daughter to protect them? And what the hell was Teresa trying to tell him with that flash drive? The party's definitely not over. It's just taken a turn into hell. The truth, it hits Jack like a tidal wave. Elizabeth wasn't just his wife. She was a partner in something terrible. Rachel hadn't died in an accident. She'd been silenced by her own mother. But why? What secrets were so dangerous that Elizabeth would kill her own daughter to protect them? And what the hell was Teresa trying to tell him with that flash drive? The party's definitely not over. It's just taken a turn into hell. Suddenly, sirens, screaming their way up the long driveway. The cops are here. Great. Just freaking great. Before Jack can even think, 2 officers burst in, guns drawn. Freeze! Nobody move! The room is a mess. Elizabeth sobbing on the floor. Carol speechless. Jessica staring daggers at her mom. The torn letters scattered like confetti after a disaster. And him? Standing there, numb, like a deer caught in headlights. Elizabeth Sterling, you're under arrest for the murder of Rachel Sterling, one of the cops barks, snapping handcuffs on her. She doesn't resist, just keeps crying. As they haul Elizabeth away, her eyes lock on Jack's, a look of pure desperation. I did it for you, Jack, for us. He wants to scream, to deny everything, but the words won't come. Then, just when he thinks things can't get any worse, Teresa, she's back, pushing past the cops, looking surprisingly calm. It's not her, Teresa says, her voice clear and strong. She's protecting someone. Everyone stares. Even the cops seem confused. What are you talking about, Mom? Elizabeth wails, struggling against the officers. Teresa ignores her, walks right up to Jack, stares him straight in the eye. Rachel wasn't just your daughter, Jack. She was yours and mine. Silence. You could hear a pin drop. Jessica gasps. Carol's eyes widen. Even the cops look stunned. What did you say? Jack stutters, his voice barely a whisper. Teresa doesn't blink. Rachel was my daughter too, Jack. We had an affair years ago. Before you even met Elizabeth. The world tilts. Everything he thought he knew, gone. Rachel, his daughter, and Teresa's, the woman he's hated for years. He looks at Jessica, at Carol, at the cops, then back at Teresa. This can't be real. This has to be some kind of sick joke. But the look on Teresa's face, it's not a joke. It's pure, raw truth. That flash drive, Teresa says, pulling another one from her purse. It has everything. Proof, photos, letters. It will explain everything. She hands it to one of the cops. This will show you who really killed Rachel, and why. The cop takes the flash drive, looking bewildered. Jack stumbles back, his head spinning. Elizabeth is screaming. Teresa is calm. The cops are confused. And Jessica. Jessica is looking at him like he's some kind of monster. He opens his mouth to speak, but no words come out. What can he say? How can he explain any of this? He just stands there, frozen, as his world crumbles around him. Was Rachel murdered to protect financial secrets? Or was this a crime of passion between complicated family relations? What does the flash drive contain? And who is the killer? He just stands there, frozen, as his world crumbles around him. Was Rachel murdered to protect financial secrets? Or was this a crime of passion between complicated family relations? What does the flash drive contain? And who is the killer? Suddenly, the doorbell rings, a loud, insistent bong. Everyone jumps. The cops exchange glances. Who the hell could that be? One mutters. Another cop goes to the door, gun still drawn. A muffled conversation. Then he steps aside, and a figure walks in. It's a man, dressed in a sharp suit, looking calm, almost professional. He scans the room, his eyes landing on Jack. "Jack Sterling?" he asks, his voice smooth, like silk. Jack nods, speechless. "I'm Agent Davis, from the FBI," the man says, flashing a badge. "We need to talk. It seems your little family drama here is a bit bigger than a simple murder." The cops look confused. Elizabeth is still sobbing. Teresa is. Watching everything, her face unreadable. "What are you talking about?" Jack finally manages to croak out. Agent Davies smiles, a cold, unsettling smile. "Let's just say Rachel wasn't the only one keeping secrets. And your wife? Well, she wasn't just protecting you, Jack." He turns to Elizabeth, who's now staring at him with wide, terrified eyes. "Elizabeth, you're also under arrest for espionage and treason against the United States. You have the right to remain silent." "Espionage? Treason?" Jack feels like he's having a stroke. What the actual hell is going on? Davies continues, his voice getting colder. Rachel Sterling, before her death, had discovered that her mother was passing sensitive financial information to a foreign entity. She threatened to expose it. He pauses, letting the words sink in. Then he looks directly at Jack. "And Jack, we know you knew about it. You were complicit." The room spins. Jack can't breathe. He didn't know. He swears he didn't. But who would believe him? Then Teresa speaks up, her voice cutting through the chaos. "He's lying. Jack didn't know anything. Elizabeth kept him in the dark. She used him." Davies ignores her. "We've been monitoring Elizabeth's activities for months. We were just waiting for the right moment to make our move." He nods to his men. "Take them both into custody. And someone get that flash drive analyzed now." As the cops lead Elizabeth and Jack away, Jessica screams, "Dad, tell me it's not true. Tell me you didn't know." Jack wants to say something, anything, but he can't. He just looks at her, his heart breaking. He's lost everything. His wife, his daughter, his freedom. All because of secrets he didn't even know existed. But then, as they're dragging him out the door, Agent Davies stops. He turns back to Teresa, who's standing there, watching everything with a strange look on her face. "Mrs. Davies," he says, his voice dangerously low. "There's something else you should know. About Rachel and about Jack." He pauses, letting the suspense build. Then he drops the bombshell. Rachel wasn't just passing information to a foreign entity. She was working for them, under the codename Nightingale. The room goes silent. Except for Elizabeth's hysterical sobbing, Teresa doesn't react. She just stares at Davies, her eyes like ice. Jack, he can't even process what he's hearing. His daughter? A spy? It's impossible. But then he remembers something, a conversation he overheard weeks before Rachel died. She was talking on the phone, her voice hushed. "Yes, I understand. The information will be delivered tonight." He dismissed it as teenage drama. But now it all makes sense. But if Rachel was a spy, who was she working for? And what was so important that she was willing to betray her own country? And then it hits him. The one person who seemed to know everything. The one person who had been pulling the strings all along. He looks at Teresa, her face still unreadable. Could it be? Was it possible that Teresa was the one behind it all? Was she the puppet master, controlling Rachel, Elizabeth, and even him? The thought is terrifying, but deep down, Jack knows it's true. And if that's the case, then this party's not just taken a turn into hell, it's just getting started. What did Rachel know, and what was Teresa willing to do to keep it all a secret? Agent Davies smiles, a cold, unsettling smile. "Let's just say Rachel wasn't the only one keeping secrets. And your wife, well, she wasn't just protecting you, Jack." He turns to Elizabeth, who's now staring at him with wide, terrified eyes. "Elizabeth, you're also under arrest for espionage and treason against the United States. You have the right to remain silent." Espionage? Treason? Jack feels like he's having a stroke. What the actual hell is going on? Davies continues, his voice getting colder. Rachel Sterling, before her death, had discovered that her mother was passing sensitive financial information to a foreign entity. She threatened to expose it. He pauses, letting the words sink in. Then he looks directly at Jack. "And Jack, we know you knew about it. You were complicit." The rune spins. Jack can't breathe. He didn't know. He swears he didn't. But who would believe him? Then Teresa speaks up, her voice cutting through the chaos. "He's lying. Jack didn't know anything. Elizabeth kept him in the dark. She used him." Davies ignores her. "We've been monitoring Elizabeth's activities for months. We were just waiting for the right moment to make our move." He nods to his men. "Take them both into custody, and someone get that flash drive analyzed. Now." As the cops lead Elizabeth and Jack away, Jessica screams, "Dad, tell me it's not true! Tell me you didn't know!" Jack wants to say something, anything, but he can't. He just looks at her, his heart breaking. He's lost everything. His wife, his daughter, his freedom. All because of secrets he didn't even know existed. But then, as they're dragging him out the door, Agent Davies stops. He turns back to Teresa, who's standing there, watching everything with a strange look on her face. "Mrs. Davies," he says, his voice dangerously low. "There's something else you should know about Rachel and about Jack." He pauses, letting the suspense build. Then he drops the bombshell. Rachel wasn't just passing information to a foreign entity. She was working for them, under the code name Nightingale. The room goes silent, except for Elizabeth's hysterical sobbing. Teresa doesn't react. She just stares at Davies, her eyes like ice. Jack, he can't even process what he's hearing. His daughter? A spy? It's impossible. But then he remembers something. A conversation he overheard weeks before Rachel died. She was talking on the phone, her voice hushed. "Yes, I understand. The information will be delivered tonight." He dismissed it as teenage drama. But now. It all makes sense. But if Rachel was a spy, who was she working for? And what was so important that she was willing to betray her own country? And then it hits him. The one person who seemed to know everything. The one person who had been pulling the strings all along. He looks at Teresa, her face still unreadable. Could it be? Was it possible that Teresa was the one behind it all? Was she the puppet master, controlling Rachel, Elizabeth, and even him? The thought is terrifying. But deep down, Jack knows it's true. And if that's the case, then this party's not just taken a turn into. Hell, it's just getting started. What did Rachel know? And what was Teresa willing to do to keep it all a secret? Suddenly, the lights go out. Complete darkness. Screams erupt. Chaos. Then a single spotlight shines on Teresa. She doesn't flinch, just stands there, regal, almost smirking. "Bravo, Agent Davies," she says, her voice amplified now, booming through the house. A truly dramatic reveal. But you missed one tiny detail. Another spotlight flicks on. This one focuses on Jessica. Jessica? Standing there, frozen, eyes wide with terror. "Jessica," Teresa says, her voice suddenly soft, almost maternal. "Come forward, darling. It's time." Jessica shakes her head, tears streaming down her face. "No." "Grandma, please, don't make me." "Grandma? Jesus Christ, what's going on?" "Jessica," Teresa repeats, her voice hardening, "do as you're told." And then Jessica does something that shatters everything. She reaches into her pocket and pulls out a gun. A silenced pistol. Small, deadly. She raises it, her hand shaking, pointing it, not at Teresa, not at Davies, but at Jack. "I'm sorry, Dad," he whispers, her voice choked with sobs. "I have to." Jack stares at her, his mind completely blank. His own daughter? Pointing a gun at him? "Jessica, no!" he screams, but it's too late. Before anyone can react, Jessica fires. But the bullet doesn't hit Jack. Instead, it hits Agent Davies. He crumples to the floor, dead before he hits the ground. The room explodes in screams. Cops scramble for cover. Elizabeth starts wailing again. And Teresa? She just smiles. "Good girl, Jessica," she says, her voice dripping with pride. "You finally understand." "Understand? Understand what?" Then Jessica speaks again, her voice clear, almost robotic. "Code Nightingale activated. Phase 2 commencing." Code Nightingale? Rachel's code name? What the actual hell is going on? And then the final bomb drops. Teresa pulls a small device from her purse, a remote control. She presses the button, and the entire house explodes. Not a small explosion, a massive, earth-shattering explosion that rips the house apart, sending debris flying in all directions. Everything goes black. Is this the end? Is everyone dead? Then a voice, whispering in the darkness. "Welcome to the family, Jack. Welcome to the family, Jack." The darkness, it's thick, suffocating. Then a flicker, a spark. It's Teresa's lighter. Her face, illuminated in the tiny flame, is calm, too calm. "Did you really think," she says, her voice echoing in the void, "that I'd let you walk away from this, Jack?" that after all this, you just get to go home. Go home? Where's home? It was just blown to smithereens. Suddenly, more lights. Not from outside, from inside. Emergency lights, red, blinking. He can see rubble, twisted metal, smoke, and bodies. He's lying on something soft. A rug? He tries to move, but pain shoots through his leg. Broken, for sure. He looks around, frantic. Jessica! Elizabeth! Teresa just smiles. A cold, knowing smile. Elizabeth is gone, Jack. Let's just say she knew too much. And Jessica, well, Jessica is where she needs to be. Needs to be? What the hell does that even mean? He tries to stand, but collapses, gasping. Stay still. Jack, Teresa says, her voice almost gentle. You're in no condition to go anywhere. He looks at her, his eyes burning with hate. You did this. You orchestrated all of this. I did what was necessary, Jack, for the greater good. The greater good? He wants to laugh, but it comes out as a choked sob. The greater good? You blew up my house. You killed my wife. You turned my daughter into a what? A terrorist? Teresa's smile fades. For the first time, he sees a flicker of something. Sadness? Regret? It wasn't supposed to be like this, Jack. Rachel, she was supposed to be the one. She was supposed to carry on the mission, but she got weak. She started to question things. Elizabeth, well, she was always a loose cannon. Too greedy, too impulsive. Mission? What mission? Then it hits him. The foreign entity, the espionage. It wasn't just about money. It was about power, control. And Teresa, she was at the center of it all. A mastermind, a puppet master. But then, a new voice. Don't listen to her, Jack. It's Jessica, standing in the doorway, silhouetted against the blinking red lights. She's holding, not a gun, a phone. She's lying, Dad, about everything. Lying? But he saw her. He saw her shoot Davies. He saw her activate the bomb. It was all a setup, Dad, Jessica says, her voice trembling. She forced me to do it. She threatened to hurt you. Forced her? But the code, Nightingale. Phase 2. She's manipulating you, Jessica, Teresa screams. Don't listen to her. She's been compromised. Compromised? What is happening? Then, Jessica does something that makes Jack's blood run cold. She raises the phone and presses a button. Suddenly, the room is filled with static, a high-pitched whine that makes his teeth ache. And then, silence. Jessica drops the phone. It shatters on the floor. She looks at Jack, her eyes blank, empty. I'm sorry, Dad, she says, her voice flat, emotionless. But it's too late. I can't stop it now. Stop what? Then he sees it. A small red light on Jessica's chest, blinking. Faster. Faster. And then he realizes what's happening. Jessica isn't just a pawn. She's a weapon. Teresa didn't just blow up the house. She blew up Jessica. Jessica is a bomb. And she's about to explode. And she's about to explode. There's no time. None. Jack's mind screams, but his body's still wrecked, pinned under debris. He can't reach her, can't stop it. Jessica's eyes, they're like glass. Empty. A walking bomb. Jessica! He roars, voice cracking. Run! Get away! But she doesn't move. Just stares at him, a faint, almost sad smile flickering across her lips. Teresa's laughing. A high-pitched, crazed sound that cuts through the chaos. Too late, Jack. Too late to save anyone now. The future belongs to us. Us? Who the hell is us? It's like he stumbled into some twisted spy movie, but this is real. This is his life, or what's left of it. He closes his eyes, bracing for the blast. This is it. End of the line. He failed. Failed Rachel. Failed Jessica. Failed everyone. Then, silence. Too long. He opens his eyes, expecting nothing but white light. But there's Jessica, still standing there. The red light. It's gone. Gone? He looks around, frantic. Where's Teresa? She's gone too. Vanished. Like smoke in the wind. Dad? Jessica whispers, her voice shaky, uncertain. What happened? He stares at her, dumbfounded. She's alive. The bomb didn't go off. But how? Then he sees it. Lying on the floor, half hidden under a chunk of concrete. The remote control. The one Teresa used to detonate the first explosion. It's smashed. Wires sticking out. Useless. Someone must have disabled it. But who? And that's when he hears it. A cough. A weak, rattling cough. He turns towards the sound, heart pounding. And there, lying half buried under a pile of rubble, is Rachel. Rachel? But Rachel's dead. He saw her. He mourned. Her. He commissioned that damn portrait. He must be hallucinating. This has to be some kind of sick joke. But it's her. Younger, paler, but unmistakably Rachel. Her eyes flutter open, and she looks at him, confusion clouding her face. Dad? She whispers, her voice barely audible. What happened? Where am I? He can't speak, can't breathe. This is impossible. Utterly, completely impossible. Jessica gasps, stumbling back. Rachel? But how? You're dead! Rachel frowns, wincing in pain. Dead? No! I remember an accident. A car. Then nothing. An accident? But Elizabeth confessed to... His head is spinning. He can't process this. Nothing makes sense. Anymore. Then Rachel looks at Jessica, a slow dawning of recognition spreading across her face. Jessica? She whispers. You're alive too? Jessica nods, tears streaming down her face. I don't understand any of this. He looks from Rachel to Jessica, then back again. 2 daughters, both alive, both supposed to be dead. And then he sees it. A small, almost imperceptible detail that changes everything. Something that makes the blood run cold. Rachel. She's wearing a necklace. A silver chain with a small, intricately carved pendant. He's seen that pendant before. On Teresa. He remembers a photograph, tucked away in an old album. Teresa. Years ago. Young, vibrant, wearing that same necklace. And then it clicks. It wasn't just an affair. It wasn't just about Rachel being Teresa's daughter. It was something far, far more sinister. He looks at Rachel, and he finally understands. Rachel wasn't working for a foreign entity. She was the foreign entity. She was a plant, a sleeper agent groomed from birth. And Teresa was her handler. But why fake her death? Why all this elaborate charade? Then he sees it in Rachel's eyes. A cold, calculating glint that he's never seen before. The innocent facade is gone, replaced by something hard, something dangerous. She's been playing them all. Dad, Rachel says, her voice suddenly strong, confident. It's time you knew the truth. She smiles, a chilling, predatory smile. My name isn't Rachel Sterling, and this, she says, gesturing towards Jessica, isn't my sister. Then the most shocking thing that could ever be said happens. She reaches for Jessica and says, "She is my assignment. My name isn't Rachel Sterling. And this," she says, gesturing towards Jessica, "isn't my sister." She reaches for Jessica and says, "She is my assignment." The words hang in the air, thick and heavy as the smoke still swirling around them. Assignment? What in God's name does that even mean? Jack's brain feels like it's been scrambled. One daughter a plant, the other an assignment? It's beyond comprehension. Jessica flinches, recoiling from Rachel's touch like she's been burned. Her eyes dart around, wild with fear. "What are you talking about? I'm your sister. We grew up together." Rachel just smiles, a cold, empty smile that sends shivers down Jack's spine. "You grew up believing you were my sister, but your entire life has been a carefully constructed lie." She turns her gaze to Jack, and that's when he sees it. The absolute lack of empathy, the chilling detachment. This isn't his daughter, not the daughter he knew. "You see, Dad?" she says, the word dripping with sarcasm. "Teresa wasn't just grooming me. She was grooming both of us. Jessica was collateral, a way to ensure my loyalty, a weakness I couldn't afford to have." "Collateral?" He looks at Jessica, her face pale and drawn, tears silently streaming down her cheeks. All her life, she's been nothing more than a pawn in some twisted game. Then the bombshell. "Jessica isn't your daughter, Dad," Rachel says, her voice flat. "She's Teresa's. That's why Teresa was so determined to protect her. That's why she blew up the house." Jack's world tilts again. He stumbles, grabbing onto a piece of twisted metal. To stay upright. Not his daughter? Teresa's? It can't be. It's too much. He looks at Jessica, searching for some sign, some denial. But her eyes are locked on Rachel, wide with a dawning horror. She knows. Somehow, she knows. "No!" Jessica whispers, shaking her head violently. "No! It's not true! He's my dad! You're lying!" Rachel just shrugs. "Believe what you want. But the truth is the truth. You were Teresa's insurance policy, and I was the weapon." She takes a step towards Jessica, her eyes glinting with something that looks like pity. "It's over, Jessica," she says softly. "The mission is complete. It's time for you to come home." "Home? What home?" Jack stares at Rachel, trying to understand. What mission? What the hell is going on? Then he notices something. Rachel's hand. She's reaching into her pocket. And the moment she pulls it out, Jack knows something extremely bad is about to happen. A syringe, filled with some kind of liquid, clear and deadly. "Rachel, no!" Jack screams, but it's too late. Rachel lunges forward, grabbing Jessica's arm. Before Jack can even react, she plunges the needle into Jessica's neck. Jessica cries out, a strangled gasp. Then her eyes roll back in her head, and she collapses to the floor, limp and lifeless. Jack stares in horror, his blood turning to ice. What did she do? What was in that syringe? Rachel straightens up, brushing a strand of hair from her face. She looks down at Jessica's body with an almost clinical detachment. "Sorry, assignment," she says, her voice devoid of emotion. "But loose ends can't be tolerated." Then she turns to Jack, her eyes locking on his. And that's when he sees it. A new Rachel. A remorseless killer. A viper. "Now, Dad," she says, her voice smooth as silk. "Let's talk about what happens next." And right then and there, a shot rings out. But neither Rachel nor Jack fired the shot. They all turn their heads to see a man standing there, in the flesh. Someone they thought was dead. It was Agent Davies, back from the dead, with a gun still in his hand. He was alive after all. "What the hell?" "Now, Dad," she says, her voice smooth as silk. Let's talk about what happens next. And right then and there, a shot rings out. But neither Rachel nor Jack fired the shot. They all turned their heads to see a man standing there, in the flesh. Someone they thought was dead. It was Agent Davies, back from the dead, with a gun still in his hand. He was alive, after all. What the hell? Davies coughed, spitting blood. The bullet hadn't killed him, just grazed him. "You bitch," he wheezed, aiming the gun shakily at Rachel. She didn't even flinch, just smiled that cold, predatory smile. Too slow, Agent Davies. Always too slow. And then, she did something no one expected. She turned to Jack. "Dad," she said, her voice suddenly soft, almost pleading. "I need your help." Jack stared at her, his mind reeling. Help? After everything she'd done? After she'd just murdered her? Wait, Teresa's daughter? It was too much. "Help you," he croaked, his voice hoarse. "You just killed." "Jessica!" Rachel sighed, a look of exasperation on her face. "Jessica was a liability, Dad. A loose end. I had to. But I can explain everything if you'll just listen." Listen? After everything? But something in her eyes, something that looked almost like fear, it stopped him. Davies was struggling to his feet, still aiming the gun. Rachel knew she had to act fast. "Dad," she said, her voice urgent, "Davies knows the truth about Project Nightingale. He knows what we're planning." Planning? Project Nightingale? It all sounded like some ridiculous movie script, but the fear in Rachel's eyes was real. "We need to get out of here, Dad. Now, before he can alert the others." Others? Others involved in this nightmare? Davies finally managed to stand, his face contorted with rage. "Don't listen to her, Jack. She's lying. She's going to kill you." But Rachel was already moving. She grabbed Jack's arm, pulling him towards the back of the ruined house. "Come on, Dad. We don't have time for this." He hesitated, torn. Could he trust her? After everything? But Davies was right there, gun in hand. And Rachel? She was his daughter. Even if she was a trained killer, a sleeper agent, a monster, she was still his daughter. He made his choice. He followed her. They stumbled through the wreckage, Rachel leading the way, Davies shouting threats behind them. They reached the back of the house, where the garage used to be. Now it was just a pile of rubble. But Rachel knew what she was doing. She pulled aside a sheet of twisted metal, revealing a tunnel. A secret tunnel. "What is this?" Jack gasped, staring into the darkness. "Our way out," Rachel said, her voice grim. "Teresa had this built years ago. Just in case." In case of what? Nuclear war? Alien invasion? This whole thing was insane. Davies was getting closer. They could hear his heavy breathing, his angry shouts. "We have to go, Dad, now!" Rachel pulled him into the tunnel, the darkness closing in around them. He stumbled, his broken leg screaming in pain. "This is crazy!" he shouted, his voice echoing in the narrow space. "Where are we going? What's going on?" But Rachel didn't answer. She just kept pulling him forward, deeper and deeper into the darkness. They walked for what felt like hours, the tunnel twisting and turning, the air growing thick and stale. Finally, they saw a light ahead, a small flickering light. They reached the end of the tunnel, and Rachel pushed open a heavy steel door. They stepped out into a forest, a dark, silent forest. "Where are we?" Jack asked, his voice trembling. Rachel looked around, scanning the trees. "We're safe now," she said, her voice tight. "At least for now." Safe? They were in the middle of nowhere, with a wounded FBI agent hunting them down, and a daughter who was a trained killer. Safe was the last thing he felt. "What are you planning, Rachel?" he asked, his voice pleading. "What is Project Nightingale? What's going on?" Rachel sighed, a look of weary resignation on her face. "I'll tell you everything, Dad. I promise. But first, we need to get to the safe." Safe house? There was a safe house? How many more secrets was she hiding? But before he could ask another question, she froze, her eyes widening. "Someone's coming," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Hide." She grabbed him, pulling him behind a fig tree. They crouched down, holding their breath, listening. Then they heard it, the sound of footsteps, heavy footsteps. Someone was walking towards them, through the forest. But it wasn't Davies. The footsteps were too heavy, too deliberate. And then they saw him. Walking out of the trees into the clearing was Jack. But it wasn't Jack. Not exactly. This Jack was younger, stronger, taller. And he was wearing a uniform. A dark military uniform. And he had a gun. A very big gun. He stopped in the clearing, scanning the trees, his eyes cold and hard. "Rachel," he said, his voice deep and resonant. "I know you're here. Come out. It's time to come home." Rachel gasped, her face draining of all color. "No," she whispered, her voice trembling. "It can't be." Then she turned to Jack, her eyes filled with a terror he had never seen before. "Dad," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "Run. Run as fast as you can. And don't ever look back." And then she did. The most shocking thing of all, she turned to the man who looked like Jack and smiled sadly. "It's over. I know what you are. I know what you've done." She then said the words, "Hail Hydra." Rachel, Hail Hydra? What the hell? Jack's mind was a scrambled mess. Hydra? Like the comic books? But this was no joke. This was real. And this guy, this twisted version of himself, was, what? A clone? A robot? The Jack thing smiled. A slow, predatory smile that mirrored Rachel's. "You always were my favorite experiment, Nightingale, but sentimentality has no place in our world." He raised his weapon. It was huge. Some kind of energy rifle. Jack knew with a sickening certainty that Rachel didn't stand a chance. "Run, Dad!" she screamed, pushing him behind a tree. "Get out of here!" But Jack couldn't move. He was frozen, paralyzed by fear and disbelief. He watched helpless as the Jack thing raised his rifle. Then a flash, a blinding light, and a sound that ripped through the forest like thunder. Rachel was gone, vaporized, nothing left but a faint smell of ozone. Jack stared, speechless, at the spot where his daughter had been standing just seconds before. Gone. Just like that. The Jack thing lowered his weapon, his eyes turning to Jack. "Now, Dad," he said, his voice cold and emotionless. "It's time for you to come home." Home? What home? The house was gone. His wife was dead. One daughter was a murderer. The other was just gone. But he knew, deep down, that there was no escape. He knew that this was the end. He took a deep breath, trying to steel himself. He wasn't going to make it easy for them. He wasn't going to let them win. He charged. It was a foolish move, a desperate act of defiance. He was an old man, with a broken leg, against a genetically engineered super soldier. He didn't stand a chance. But he had to try. The Jack thing didn't even flinch. He simply raised his hand, and a wave of energy slammed into Jack, sending him flying through the air. He landed hard, his body screaming in pain. He lay there, gasping for breath, waiting for the end. But it didn't come. He opened his eyes and saw the Jack thing standing over him, his expression curious, interesting. he said, his voice low. I was expecting more resistance. Then he did something completely unexpected. He knelt down and reached out a hand. Come on, Dad, he said, his voice almost gentle. Let's go home. It's time you knew the truth about everything. He hesitated, torn. Could he trust him after everything? But what choice did he have? He took the Jack thing's hand and let himself be pulled to his feet. They walked in silence, deeper and deeper into the forest. Jack didn't know where they were going or what was going to happen. But he knew one thing. This wasn't the end. This was just the beginning. And just as they were passing out of view of the destroyed land, he whispered, Hail Hydra. Uau! Você não vai acreditar no que vem por aí. Essa saga alucinante está longe de acabar. Você precisa se inscrever agora no canal para não perder as próximas histórias exclusivas que vão explodir sua mente. Esmague o botão de like agora. Mostre para o algoritmo quem manda e garanta que essa história chegue a todos. Este é o momento de demonstrar seu apoio. Inunde a seção de comentários com suas reações. O que você achou desse final insano? Quais são suas teorias? Eu quero saber tudo. Não espere nem mais um segundo para compartilhar este vídeo com pelo menos 5 amigos que precisam conhecer este desfecho. Acredite, eles vão te agradecer. Só os verdadeiros fãs compreendem a importância de apoiar o canal com estas ações. Vamos mostrar nossa força.